In the cybersecurity world, you're either going to have to build it yourself, you're going to have to buy it, or you're going to have to partner with someone. Adding any new service offering, that's really your choices from an MSP or a business perspective. You can invest in your own technology, you can invest in your own practice, and you can build it yourself. You can buy someone who's already has a successful model, except for I'd wait a little bit before you start investing in cybersecurity firms because they're kind of the hot ticket right now and have very high multiples, or you can partner.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Incident Report presented by Quest Technology Management. I'm Paul Burke, Director of Technology Communications. Every week, I'm joined by VP of Sales and Partnerships, Adam Burke. The Incident Report brings you conversations with thought leaders, business innovators, and channel mavericks to help you stay productive and agile in a changing technology landscape. Hey everybody, welcome to the Incident Report, the first Incident Report of 2023. Everything's fresh, everything's new, all that stuff. Adam, my co-host, how are you doing? How's your 2023 going?
Same different day, Paul. Happy New Year. Glad to be here. As always, kicking off the new year with positivity and good stuff for all.
Adam, new policy on YouTube. If you swear within the first 8 seconds, you are immediately demonetized. So thankfully we're not monetized, or else this could be a big issue.
That would really hit the bottom line, but I'm glad that's not a problem for us.
You can listen to us rant on YouTube, Quest Technology Management. Check out the channel, lots of good stuff there. You can also listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever device you have, there's a service just throwing our voices at you.
Yes, whatever podcast store you frequent. Every week coming out with hot takes and new content, Paul. Every week.
So it's been 2 weeks since we did our last podcast. Adam, how the last 14 days, last fortnight, how has it treated you?
Pretty well. I had a good Christmas. I had a good time with the family. Rung in the new year at a place that, Paul, it is a magical kingdom that, from a business standpoint, I really appreciate the efficiency at which they transfer money out of your wallet and into theirs. It is truly magical. The Disney kingdom with Bob Iger back at the helm. Glad to see that, but also really impressed with their ability. I think we talked about this before on the podcast a year previous, but they are just continually innovating different ways for me to spend money and do so seamlessly. I was talking to our national partner manager and strategic partner director, Gary Schick, earlier today, and I was just in awe of how fast, how efficient, and how smooth the money just flows from your phone, from your wallet, from your RFID-enabled credit card. I mean, there are no barriers to entry of transferring funds. I mean, it's like magic.
They're constantly asking, how do we get this thing that they want in their hands before they realize they can't afford it?
It was fun. We did a little New Year's trip to Disneyland with the girls and good times. All the kidding aside, it was a lot of fun. But from a business standpoint, they got that dialed on, making it very easy to consume.
Nice. My New Year's equally as exciting. I stayed home with the cats and watched Clarkson Farm, which, have you seen Clarkson Farm on Amazon?
No idea. No idea what that is.
It's such a fun show. It's interesting. It's thoughtful. Clarkson was the host of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire and Top Gear, really famous over in England. And he bought a farm and he thought, why don't I take this year and farm everything myself, from raising sheep to harvesting the wheat. And it just kind of dives into what he learns and what he does over 8 episodes. It's great. I loved it. And I'll tell you something, running a farm, not as profitable as running Disneyland.
No, I think there's a couple generations of farmers who would agree with you. That's a tough business.
And you know what another tough business is? Technology management and surviving and thriving in the channel. And if you're joining us today, you might wonder, what is this show about? Well, we're here to find stories, to share stories that are about the channel and how to succeed in it.
Yeah, and we can even take it one step back. For those of you who are curious, what is the channel? When we talk about channel sales, we are talking about technology vendors and manufacturers and OEMs bringing their product to market and using different avenues to do that. That could be value-added resellers, that could be technology distribution, that could be what's called master agencies or technology distributors, or that can be MSSPs, MSPs. So basically anyone that helps take a manufacturer, a service provider's capabilities to the end user as a sales enablement person. That's what we're talking about when we talk about channel sales.
Today we have 3 stories, good, bad, and the ugly of 2023 so far. We're going to start off with a little positivity, a little good in the world. Our first story comes from channel e2e.com. Bridgepoint Technologies acquire PPT Solutions. Technology advisory firm Bridgepoint Technologies this week announced it acquired PPT Solutions, a provider of client-centric customer experience and contact center consulting solutions. Adam, what do you think this means, and what is a client-centric customer experience?
Yeah, so this was a cool one. I label this as good because this is, well, first of all, Bridgepoint Technologies, full disclosure, is a Quest partner. We work with them as a service provider. They're a great technology broker and delivery partner. They have agents and representatives all over the country, and they've been going through some acquisitions. They brought some private equity folks on board a couple years ago, or about a year ago, I think. They've been purchasing what are called trusted advisors and technology consultants and experts. They've been buying up their books of business. This was really interesting to me, and this caught my attention because PPT Solutions not only is what would be classified in the channel as an agency organization that sells technology, but they also have an implementation and an engineering capability as well. And this is different because usually what we've seen to date in the acquisition strategies of some of these organizations like Bridgepoint or Upstack or Avant or Telarus is they've kind of acquired other smaller versions of themselves. So for people who don't know, technology service providers and technology service brokers hold contracts with all of the service providers like Quest and AT&T and Verizon and small regional data center providers and all sorts of different what's called service providers. So they kind of hold the agreements. And then they have agencies and technology sales folks who run their business through that brokerage house. So if you think about like real estate brokers, you got Lion, you got Remax, you got the Bravo Network dude or whatever, who's selling real estate. And those real estate brokers put their business through someone else who handles all the paperwork with the service provider. So they make their money on the back end. And to date, most of these technology service brokers have been acquiring agencies that don't necessarily have the implementation or like managed service offerings or professional services or engineering, but they have fantastic customer relationships. They're excellent at helping to source the appropriate technology for the appropriate need, and then bring in the appropriate service provider to help their client. What was different about this acquisition is, at least from my understanding, PPT Solutions has a little bit of both, right? So they handle a lot of business process outsourcing, contact center, customer experience, right? So when you call into someone, and Disney, for example, we're just talking about Disney. When you call into Disney and they see your phone number and your phone number is associated with an account record in their system, that person who gets your call, usually if it's a well-integrated machine, will see your account record. We'll see your history. We'll see how many kids you have. We'll see when was the last time you visited the park. We'll see all of these types of history of your transaction, and that gives that person the ability to execute a customer experience engagement. They know more about you instantly, right? So they can kind of help you quickly.
I'm on their website right now. Apparently, they offer transformational customer experiences, people and workforce optimization, sourcing strategies, and technology solutioning. It's very impressive.
Yeah, and so where they're a little bit different, at least from my understanding, and where this caught my attention was they're an execution firm as well. So they have engineering, I believe, and they have the ability to help with professional services engagements, which is great. And we're kind of seeing these firms like Bridgepoint and others take shape, and kind of how are they going to go to market and how are they going to differentiate from each other. So I don't think M&A is going to necessarily slow down in the channel in 2023. PPT's got a great reputation. Bridgepoint's got a great reputation in the channel. I think this is a good thing, and we're going to kind of continue to see growth and investment from these firms going into the new year.
They mentioned customer experience so often in this article. It made me wonder, is this the thing that's going to help companies differentiate themselves in 2023? The customer experience is going to be paramount. This will be the most important thing.
Well, I think it's going to be helping organizations get the most out of their technology investment. And that's where I thought this was probably a pretty smart investment for the folks at Bridgepoint, because they now have a team that can help them kind of cross-pollinate all their existing relationships with contact center enablement and helping them get the most out of their investment. A lot of times what happens in IT world is not that this is nefarious or anything, but you sometimes get pitched and sold a slide deck, right? There's a slide deck, there's all these great things this technology is going to do for you, but the ability to get the most out of your technology isn't always available to you because you don't have experts in that technology stack.
Mm-hmm.
You bought the Ferrari, but you don't have a Ferrari mechanic hanging out, at your house. I don't even have a Toyota mechanic hanging out at mine. So you don't necessarily have someone who can get the most out of your investment. So a lot of people have purchased and subscribed to software that's capabilities far surpass their internal ability to leverage them. And that gap, I think, in this year is going to be closed by firms that can help organizations get the most out of what they've invested in. That can be around application development. So not to talk Quest's own book here, but we've developed a practice around application development as a service where we're helping organizations get the most out of their current technology investments. So when I saw this investment from the folks over at Bridgepoint, definitely I think it's probably a good move on their behalf, helping their organization and helping their clients get the most out of their call center experience and their customer experience.
This is similar to what you were saying a few weeks ago, where as we're dealing with this recession or going into recession or however you want to look at it, companies are having to tighten the belt and they may not be able to make those big purchases that they used to. So they have to utilize and maximize the technology they already have. This is what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, the customer experience is going to help facilitate that. And you're absolutely right. We are going through a recession. Sometimes people think like recessions are bad. Like recessions are not bad. Recessions are part of the economic cycle. And it's good because it helps you understand what's important and kind of get the business focused on, okay, we made all these purchases, we made all these investments, we have all this technology, what's critical to the business? What do we need to optimize? And what's not critical to the top or the bottom line? Those types of decisions are, what recessions can kind of help call out. There's a lot of dead wood out there. We've talked about this before. There are investments that maybe were foolish. There was cheap money, and the recessions are going to help people prioritize what's important and where they can improve. And that's historically been a pretty good time to be an MSP or to be an organization that can help clients with creative ways to address challenges that a year or two ago they would have either just thrown money or people at.
And so speaking of MSPs, our second story, so that was the good. We're going to be talking a little bit about the bad here. On channelfutures.com, the 2023 MSP outlook, cybersecurity and automation will be paramount. Cybercrime will only increase and will affect anyone who is not properly protected in 2023. And there's some great quotes in here. Smaller MSPs will face a decision with an increased need to carry a full cybersecurity practice, partner, or outsource themselves, with some deciding to get off the merry-go-round, says Val King of White Hat Virtual.
Yeah, in the cybersecurity world, you're either going to have to build it yourself, you're going to have to buy it, or you're going to have to partner with someone. Adding any new service offering, that's really your choices from an MSP or a business perspective. You can invest in your own technology, you can invest in your own practice, and you can build it yourself. You can buy someone who's already has a successful model, except for I'd wait a little bit before you start investing in cybersecurity firms because they're kind of the hot ticket right now and have very high multiples. So buying an MSP, an MSSP, you're gonna pay top dollar for it right now because articles like this are making people think their valuations are pretty stupid. I'm sorry, not stupid. That's not the right word. Elevated, I think is the correct word. Yes. And then, or you can partner, right? So Quest believes heavily in partnerships. We built out our partner program about 13 years ago, started in 2009, and have kind of continued to partner with national and regional providers, helping them augment their cybersecurity practices, right? Someone might be delivering endpoint protection as a service, but needs some patch management. A lot of different disciplines out there. Cybersecurity is a very, very layered approach, and you got to figure out what vendors you want to work with. You got to figure out what manufacturers and you want to be trained up on. You got to figure out how you want your people educated, and then how are you going to put together service level agreements to kind of match what everyone's dealing with right now.
One of the guys quoted in the article suggests MDR and cybersecurity staff training and phishing simulation will be two of the most important next-gen components. What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a thought. I mean, the idea of phishing simulations, I think it's 70 or 80% of the breaches start with an end user, right? Someone
Mm-hmm.
who wasn't paying attention, gets spear phished, and hey, here's your commission statement. Open up this Excel file, and they fall for it and click it. So I think that's good. Educating the end user is absolutely a layer there, but I don't think there's ever been any significant reduction through that alone, right? I think you have to kind of expect the mistake to be made. And then when that mistake happens, how are you going to isolate it? So that combination of MDR and end user training, I'd agree that those two layers are pretty important.
So, a number of the interviewed people said they expect to see an increase in the prevalence of privacy regulations across states and industries that will require organizations to spend time, effort, and money on strategies to secure and protect data. We'll see more privacy and data related security policies like FTC safeguard rules. More businesses that are adjacent to traditionally regulated industries will be impacted by these requirements.
Yeah, regulation is going to, if it bleeds, it leads, right? From a newspaper standpoint and from a news standpoint. And the more coverage that these cybersecurity events get, the more regulations are going to come down.
Mm-hmm.
And the more those regulations are going to push down on different service providers and different sectors of the economy. So if you're touching anything from a government service standpoint or from anybody who's associated with the Department of Defense, if you're touching anything that has to do with manufacturing, all these different compliance metrics are getting pushed down on folks, and more people are having to figure out, okay, how do I deal with ISO 27701, ISO 27701, those types of certificates? How do I deal with ITAR compliance? How do I deal with all sorts of different insurance qualifications? There's a lot there. So the compliance is going to push down further. Not sure regulation actually helps, but it definitely generates a ton of money for the consulting agencies.
And the article mentions that liability insurance rates just continue to grow. Cyber liability insurance will continue to be more scrutinizing of business hygiene, and you'll start to see alliances between brokers and underwriters and MSSPs, MDR, XDR platforms being formed and strengthened. They expect to see an increase in proof of hygiene for the best rates. Think safe driver discount, where you install a sensor in your car that shows data to prove you aren't driving recklessly.
Yeah, no potential for conflict of interest there.
Nope,
So that's
can't
good.
see it,
Yeah.
can't imagine.
That's good. I'm sure that won't happen. Ever heard of Enron? No. So that's great. I think, insurance folks getting involved and figuring out that the cybersecurity challenge, I think they're going to see that as an opportunity. They got whacked over the last 3 years, paying out some of these claims. They've gotten wise to it. And usually when insurance folks get clever about these things, it turns into a profitable business for them. So you'll kind of see the pendulum swing back the other way. I think people are going to start making decisions around cybersecurity insurance from a preventative measure versus, hey, do I invest in the insurance or do I invest in preventative measures that can limit the impact? I think there's going to be some real business kind of discussions around, okay, what's my liability and what's my cost of coverage versus, is there a way to layer my defense so that in the event something happens, doing a full business impact analysis, how much is it really going to hurt the company if we have to deal with an incident?
Speaking of companies hurting, Salesforce is laying off 10% of its personnel, which is more than 7,000 employees. And this is in addition to what they laid off in November.
Yeah, so we did the good, we got the bad, and the ugly here is what we're starting to see, the reduction in force notifications that are going out. Salesforce, this caught my attention. It was on the front page of the CNBC website this morning. It's been talked about a lot in the channel. 7,000 people who work at Salesforce are being let go. The kind of the nasty part about it, I'm in sales. I grew up after getting out of the Army and coming to Quest. I grew up in sales in our company. And I think it's kind of a rough go. If you listen to some of the people inside Salesforce on some chats going on right now, they're not letting people go. Some people go, or not letting some people know that they're getting let go until after March when some of their numbers are in. So for some sales folks, and there's other firms that are doing this as well, some large network and switch companies and other things, that people they're not letting them know that you're part of the reduction in force until after your sales are in for the year. So it's a little brutal, but this happens every time that they do a reduction in force. This isn't anything new. You see this at the large firms. They hire thousands of people. They staffed up pretty aggressively to accommodate the work from home and the pandemic and everything like that. And then when they see forecasts and recessionary kind of signals kicking off there, they got to cut. So this is the first of many to happen. I know this is happening at, I think, some of the larger carriers like AT&T and Verizon and others, large debt overhangs at those groups that aren't going to be accommodated. So thousands and thousands of people are going to be losing their jobs there. So that's getting ugly. But again, it is a natural part of the cycle. And when you're working for one of these big firms, these reduction in forces can be pretty brutal.
Did you know Salesforce, I didn't know this, is the largest private employer in San Francisco?
I did not know that. No,
Yeah.
I know they have that. I know they built that huge Salesforce tower. San Francisco is in the middle of the interesting thing about San Francisco. I think it's one of the worst areas right now for corporate real estate. I think Salesforce Tower, I don't know, won't quote me on this, but I think it was over 30 or 40% unoccupied.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I think corporate real estate in San Francisco right now is one of the highest in the country, either 27 or 32% unoccupied corporate real estate right now, just empty buildings, empty office space. People just didn't come back to the office, and a lot of San Francisco, especially knowing that Salesforce is the largest employer there, is tech, right? So, and a lot of people in tech just work from home, and in 2021 they definitely had options. If their employer asked for them to come back in 2022, they definitely had options to jump somewhere else where they could work from home. And I don't think a lot of people were interested in coming back and navigating the beautiful streets of San Francisco.
You got Twitter unloading people, you got Meta letting people go, Amazon, Lyft, HP, DoorDash.
Yeah, the reduction in forces are pretty brutal in that market right now.
I realized when we were doing this podcast, Adam, that we framed it as the good, the bad, and the ugly. One might think that it would be good to end on something positive. So I don't want to put you on the spot, Adam, but anything good happening this week that you like to discuss, anything in the future, you're like, oh, this is a very positive thing. Leave people with hope. That's what you get to do now. You get to leave people with hope.
Well, I'm really excited about 2023. We're continuing to hire, grow, and acquire organizations. Quest has been on an upward path and trajectory for the partner program, and everything else we're doing has been growing rapidly, and Quest has been growing steadily, and we're continuing to invest. So I'm excited about the year to come. I think recessions they're part of the economic cycle. There's booms and busts. I think you just got to stay in the game and see what happens. I saw we had a long-term partner about 10 years ago who we worked with from a virtual desktop standpoint back in the Desktone days. I saw his name came up he was the CEO of Desktone back then, a gentleman by the name of Peter McKay, who's now the CEO of another organization valued well over $1 billion, one of the hottest startups going on in the cybersecurity space. So it was really cool to see Peter mentioned in the CNBC hottest tech startups. There's a lot of great stuff going on. These behemoths, they roll up, they roll down, that happens, but amazing opportunities right now in the market if you're able to help people, in creative ways and get the most out of their technology. I'm extremely excited for what we have to come. We just added a new national channel manager out of the East Coast, out of Atlanta, Georgia. So pretty excited about that. We're growing that part of our business on the East Coast, and just continue to invest. I'm pumped. Good, bad, or ugly, whatever it is, stay in the game.
Look at this silver lining gentleman, this Adam Pollyanna Burke. I love it.
Yes.
Nice.
The rose-colored glasses on, Paul.
Oh,
Back.
man. Things are looking up. Well, Adam, thank you for joining me and jumping in and sharing your thoughts on everything. And everybody listening, thanks for being part of the show. And if you ever have questions, ever have thoughts, you can always email us. We'd love to talk to you. Have an amazing week.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.
Thanks so much for listening. The Incident Report is brought to you by Quest Technology Management. With over 40 years of experience, Quest is a leading technology integrator working seamlessly with your staff and systems to achieve your IT goals. Learn more about everything they do at questsys.com. And if you have questions or suggestions for the podcast, you can always email Adam and myself at theincidentreport@questsys.com. We hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next time.